Okay, so we've covered up until now basically like what's in our garden and what we're doing soon. Let's keep going through everything we can do right now. And actually, so we've got a filter in the app, this filter at the bottom that can be planted. Let's go to that, look at everything that's on there for right now. Okay, let's just talk through this list. So, and we're gonna be honest about some of this stuff, like artichokes, we have not personally grown yet. So
we are going to this year though.
Learned a lot about it, read a lot about it. What, asparagus? So asparagus, again, not something I've personally grown, but read a lot about it and watched a lot about it. The reason why we have not personally grown it yet is because it is something that you plant once, it takes 2 to 3 years to produce, but then it lasts up to 20 years. We keep in the back of our mind all the time that we want to be at an acreage. So I don't want to invest all this money into a bed of asparagus. So what we're going to do, because I keep doing this and we're still in the same place, and I don't want to, I've been saying this for 4 years and I have asparagus now if I'd have done it then. So what we're going to do is do a smart pot and have it be asparagus. That way if we move, we can take it with us. So that's our plan with asparagus. We need to get it in the ground now. When we get back home, this is on our list of one of the things we're going to get in the ground and get a smart pot for to get it in. So what's that? Asparagus? Well, I don't have personal experience with it yet, so it's hard for me to say on that level, but I haven't read anything that indicates that it's too overly aggressive. Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, that's a lot of food then. I mean, that's, so that's a good problem to have.
Pot, I mean, or keep it in some sort of raised bed, then you, yeah.
I mean, exactly. Okay, so let's go and look at some of our, banana peppers, bell peppers, all the peppers in general, it is too early to put them outdoors right now, but you can still get them started indoors. Although we're really at the back end of starting a new seed indoors, I would be buying a transplant or something like that. And then, but the thing about now is it is a good time to buy transplants now rather than waiting until it's time to plant them, because you need to start the hardening off process. So if you wait until April 8th to go buy a transplant and you get it home, well, now you got to wait till April 15th to actually get it in the ground because you got to transition it to outdoors. Whereas if you buy one now, you can start transitioning it now. Start off by taking it outside for an hour the first day. The second day, take it outside for 2 hours. Whenever we get a rain, let it go be out in the rain for a little bit. When we get some wind, let it go be in the wind for a little bit. Let it get used to all the different things it's going to deal with out there over the course of a week and then plant it. So you could buy your transplant now and start doing that now with your peppers. And then as soon as it looks like our nighttime temperatures are going to be in the 50s or above 50, so above 55 really is the cutoff, then it's safe to plant. And one thing I want to show, y'all are some of the first people to ever actually see what I'm about to show you. We've been working for 6 months on a Garden Plus feature of our app that is going to be a tracking version that lets you log when you plant things and it guides you through everything. But one aspect of it is going to be this new weather tab that shows you gardening specific weather information. So some of the things we're wanting to show with that are like this time below 50 and time above 90. So we're going to have more cards like that guide you towards an understanding of knowing when the right time is to plant your peppers. And we'll also have alerts and push notifications. So whenever it's going to be above 90, you'll get a push notification letting you know a couple of days in advance, so you can make sure everything's watered. You've got coverings if you need it. Also, if it's going to freeze, you'll get a push notifications letting you know it's going to freeze. And then you'll get that 3 or 4 days in advance, so you can take time to do things about it. So, all right, so let's jump back over here, look at some more plants.
So peppers are something that we grow a lot of. He loves to collect them, again.
Yeah.
And he grows a lot of different types. And I kid you not, last summer we had just like pounds of peppers. So we were like, what in the world are we going to do with these? So a really easy way to preserve them is just to run them through a Ninja. Well, you chop the stems off, run them through the Ninja, seeds and all, and then put them on a cookie sheet with some wax paper or something like that, parchment paper, lay them out flat, let them freeze for a day, and then move them over to just a gallon-sized Ziploc, freezer safe.
Here's a blog post we have that shows
this. Yeah, so I just keep mine like that, And then, yeah, and then whenever I go in, like in the winter time, I always have peppers that I can use. And I just go in, take a spoonful, add them to saute it, and I just saute them right along with my onions and peppers, and add them to stir fries or.
We do seeds and all too. We don't take out the seeds or anything. Obviously it's gonna be spicy if you eat them raw that way. But once you saw,
we have all types.
Yeah, this is all types. Yeah, this applies to all types of peppers. You can do this with all of them. But so we include the seeds when we do all of this. One of the reasons for that is that the seeds are where some of the best nutrition is in the pepper plant. So a lot of the research that's shown peppers as being an effective preventer of cancer and things like that, it's in the seeds. That's what's doing it. So we'll include the seeds in there. Now, if we're making it for our if our kids are maybe going to eat it, or someone that doesn't like spicy foods, you can saute the peppers, and that'll cook a lot of the heat out of it. Or just we have, don't put as much in there, but that's what we do with a lot of our peppers. Yes. Mm-hmm. So you've had issues with the past where the peppers just fall off and they don't actually produce peppers. So when the temperature gets above like 92, 93, whenever plants produce flowers, the flowers just drop off. And the same thing happens with smaller peppers, is they'll just drop off because that's the plant's response. It's how it sweats. We leak water, it leaks flowers. So that's how plants work. And in fact, I want to mention there's a book called How Plants Work. I want to recommend. It's really interesting. That talks about the details of how all this works. But Linda Chalker Scott was the author of it. It's a really good book. But so peppers and tomatoes and things like that through the summer, they're just going to drop flowers until temperatures get back down. So that's why we start peppers and tomatoes indoors in February. That way they get large enough that we get them transplanted and we get a little bit of peppers in June and July before we don't get any throughout the heat of summer. And then they come back at the end. So Bok Choy, we're right at the end of time that you could get it transplanted outside. So it's probably a little too late to start from seed outdoors, but transplants, Bill has some here too. So
there you go. Bill has some.
He's got all.
We were talking about this during the break. We were talking about Bok Choy.
Oh yeah, he's got Kale and Bok Choy. I hope he has Bok Choy. I don't want to disappoint you. Okay, I unloaded all that and I thought I saw some, but bok choy, if you get it transplanted, along with kale, collard greens, broccoli, all of those, if you get them transplanted now, it'd be okay. Just too late to start them from seed. Cantaloupe, you can start it indoors now. Now melons and cucumbers and things like that can be a little finicky with transplanting. They tend to do better if they're started from seed directly outside. But you need to wait a while to get your cantaloupe outside from seed, so it's April 12th at the earliest. Cantaloupe is very sensitive to temperatures. So melons, cucumbers, all of these, they do not like temperatures below 55. So you need to wait until a week or two after your tomatoes and peppers. Really, they like a little more heat than the other ones. And really, it's about soil temperature more than air temperature with them. They like the soil temperature to be higher. So if you're in a smart pot, it'll be different. That'll be higher soil temperature. It'll be fine starting them in there. And they do grow really well in smart pots, and it's an easy way to grow them, especially if you have like a chain link fence or some sort of fence like that you can put the smart pot up against, and then you can just train the smart pot or the cantaloupe to grow along the fence. And we've also grown cantaloupes along, well, we haven't done this for cantaloupe, but we've done for other similar melons on cattle panel trellises that are arches. So a 14-foot cattle panel, you just attach one side to T-post and the other side to T-post, arch it over, and then the cantaloupe will hang down. And if it's too large of a cantaloupe, you may have to help it with like a support of some sort, but cantaloupe's generally okay. Let's cover a couple mistakes that are often made with cantaloupe that we made the first year. The first one is with watering. So you want to back off on watering about 3 weeks to a month before you harvest the cantaloupe. The reason for that is that if you keep watering, and especially if you give too much water, you'll wash all the sugar out of the cantaloupe and it'll taste bland and it won't have much flavor. So if you back off on watering the last 3 weeks to a month, And maybe even stop watering. I mean, it depends on, but anyway, the point is that if you follow that basically guideline, then it concentrates all the sugars in the plant and leads to a sweeter cantaloupe. And then you'll know when to harvest whenever the tendrils that are closest to the plant, so the plant will have these little curly pumpkin tendril things you're used to. Those things will be right before the fruit, right? Whenever the closest ones before the fruit turn brown and die, that's whenever it's time for you to harvest that cantaloupe. Also, whenever the mice start scratching at it, they'll let you know. It's a battle against mice in our house.
It really is.
So, one thing we've done is made cages and put them around them, so you can make little wire cages and make it to where the cantaloupe goes inside of that to keep mice off of it, or get cats and dogs. But then you have cat and dog problems. It's a fairy tale. It's this whole ordeal.
Well, then you have the motion activated sprinkler, and then the cats and dogs don't go to that area.
Yeah, I know. Okay, we're gonna skip celery because we've never grown it. It's very difficult to grow in Oklahoma. It's just, I don't advise really growing it in Oklahoma. I've never heard of anyone actually pull it off that didn't do it indoors. But I will say celery, I've heard it grown for the leaves more than anything. Not for like the large stalks, but the smaller celeries that grow the leaves to use in stalks and things like that. Chamomile, we grow chamomile to use in teas. It is perennial and will come back every year. So, did I tap the wrong one?
Yep.
And you cannot, if you buy chamomile leaves or flowers in the store, they're not going to be anywhere close to what you get out of your garden. You can't match it. And they smell incredible. They have a lot of anxiety relieving properties. You can use them in teas, things like that. They're pretty awesome.
We planted them right outside of our bedroom window before. Oh, it smells good.
And it's now it can be a little invasive in a way. It produces a lot of seeds, and so you're gonna have chamomile popping up forever. But
yes,
for me, it's a cool problem to have because when I'm mowing, I get a random scent of chamomile that pops up. We've talked about chives quite a bit. I think y'all know about chives. We're good on that one. Collard greens. Let's talk about those for a minute. So collard greens are great to have in the summer because they do well in the heat. It's not like spinach and lettuce you're going to lose when it gets too hot. Collard greens are going to keep going through the heat. They produce these really big leaves. They're not as good raw as spinach and some of the other baby kales, but they're really good in stir fries. You just chop them up and then cook them like that, or in soups. We've also used them as a tortilla replacement, as a wrap, something like that. We direct seeded our collard greens about 2 weeks ago. We were a little late on it. We just sprinkled seeds everywhere on those. He does have some transplants for sale for those for sure. Collard greens are going to have issues with white moths again, the cabbage moths. Other than that, you shouldn't have too many issues. Maybe some aphids. Eggplant. Eggplant we have grown 1 year. We grew a ton of them and we never even cooked one.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It was the year that we went nuts with trying everything.
It was the year that we had we had a crazy amount of stuff in our garden.
Yeah.
And I was like,
in
I don't
fact,
know
we
what to
lost
do
the
with this.
eggplant. It was underneath. We forgot we even had it because it was surrounded by other stuff because we planted too close together. Like we didn't know what we were doing back then.
Oh, that does
That sounds
good.
so. Yeah, but what everyone has told us is with eggplant is roast them and
roast them and put some marinara. Got it.
But they are very easy to grow in Oklahoma. They're much like peppers in that way. There's a lot of different varieties of white ones and purple ones and all different types.
We'll need to grow some. They're purple. We've got to grow some. We'll do them again this year.
Fennel we have not grown yet.
It's a bad companion.
Yeah, so fennel is something that you don't want to have around other plants. In fact, if you go to they don't have any friends, and this is everyone they don't like.
They're not very popular.
Yeah, so they're not good for other plants.
They are very good at attracting beneficials, though.
Yes, that's what typically is best for. Is which butterfly is it that's attracted to fennel? Do you remember?
Yes.
We'll put it in a smart pot next to it. Just don't put it in the same soil.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a little bit further away from them.
What happens if you put it next to it?
You know what?
Do you remember what it was?
I don't remember why. I just remember looking at it and it kept talking about how
I know
was
some
not
plants
good.
actually inhibit the growth of other plants. I don't know if it's part of it, but
It might be something like that.
yeah, there's a lot of plants that do that. Like walnut is one of those things where walnut seeds will inhibit the growth of other things. Yep. Yeah, but fennel is good to have around the outskirts of your garden or just not next to your other plants because it does bring in like the butterflies and things like that. Honeydew, same thing I said for cantaloupe, applies to honeydew basically. And watermelon will be the same thing basically. You can start them indoors and transplant them, but they don't like it that much. They're better started outdoors direct from seed. You'll have fewer pest issues if you train them to grow vertical or growing up a trellis, something like that, instead of letting them grow directly on the ground. Hot peppers are going to be the same as banana peppers that we talked about earlier. Kohlrabi, unless you're doing a transplant, it's too late to start it outdoors directly from seed. We've never actually grown it because we bought it and didn't like it.
We are growing one this year.
Well,
I planted them out there.
Yeah, but we got it from the store and we didn't like it. And that was Brussels sprouts. That was, yeah.
No, not Brussels. It was a artichoke.
Artichoke, that was what, yeah. Typically what we'll do is we'll find something in a grocery store first and then see if we even like it before we grow it. So after the eggplant experience, we were like, let's just at least try something before we grow it. Lavender, we grow lavender mostly just for the flowers, for teas. I do this and smell it a lot. It's very similar to rosemary in that it does not like to keep its feet wet. It likes to stay drained. So,
well, it's a really good companion plant as well. So it helps deter pests and helps disguise your other plants from the pests.
What else? I don't want to go through everything. Tomatoes. We talked about lemongrass. Okay, so lemongrass we've typically grown around our patio in containers because we read a lot of blog posts that said that it helped with mosquitoes, and that did not appear to work for us at all because we had lemongrass and citronella and rosemary, everything they said. We were like basically made shirts out of that stuff is the way we had it, and it did not work. So no, we used it in stir fries. We never made tea out of it, but we did use it in stir fries. We never harvested the roots to use them. Typically you harvest the roots and use them. We were just using the tops off of them. I will say too, our cats and our dog love eating on lemongrass too. They'll walk by it and eat off of it all the time. So it is a plant that your animals, if you care about that, it's kind of like cat grass in the way that they really like using it to clean themselves out. Marigolds, I want to mention marigolds because the flowers are edible and they're a great companion plant to have around for tomatoes, but don't put too many of them, because they will attract spider mites if you have too many. And then once the spider mites find your marigolds, then they'll find your tomatoes. So typically we're not really planting a lot of marigolds around our tomatoes. We're planting them around the border of our garden or something like that.
Attract those beneficials again.
Yeah.
And just to look pretty.
We talked about mint earlier. I don't think we need to cover it again. Mustard greens. I played a really cruel joke on Carrie once because she hates mustard. And I brought in a leaf and said, try this new spinach that I'm growing. And a mustard leaf tastes just like mustard, and it was awesome.
He was so mean. He got in so much trouble.
You can also harvest the seed, and that's how you make mustard, is from mustard seeds, ground up. So, yes, I love them on a hamburger. Like one of my favorite things is to put a mustard greens on a hamburger instead of mustard, because it's the same flavor, but it's greens. New Zealand spinach is a green that does really well in the summer here in Oklahoma. So it's not related to spinach, but it kind of looks like it and it tastes like it in a way. And it's good raw. So a lot of the other greens in the summer aren't so good raw. This is one that is pretty good raw. So it takes a while to germinate. I would get the seeds started now and get it and then transplant it outside, because it does take a while to germinate and then to grow. Once it starts growing, it takes off. But it takes 6 to 8 weeks to get it going. So I always seem to forget to get it started until my spinach is gone. And then I've got 6 to 8 weeks that I don't have any greens really that I like fresh. So I would start that now indoors. Okra, it says you can start it indoors. Technically it can be transplanted, but it doesn't really like it that much. And it's easy enough just to start it outdoors directly from seed. So with okra, I've always just started it directly from seed. It is super prolific. You'll get a ton of okra off of it. It does really well in the summer. I love to eat it raw, just directly out of the garden. We'll get, like when they're like 3 or 4 inches long, we'll harvest them at that point and eat them raw. Onions, we're right at the edge of planting them outside if you do transplants. So if you buy them in bundles from the nursery, you can transplant those. I think we talked about those quite a bit earlier. Same with oregano, we talked about that earlier. All of the herbs, we're still within window to get that transplanted. You don't really want to transplant those once we get too deep into April because they need to have a good 6 to 8 weeks to get established before it gets really hot. So that's why it's better to transplant those now. It's the same with the perennial, fruit vines and stuff like that we talked about earlier. That's why you want to get those planted before it gets too hot. Potatoes, we're right at the edge of getting those planted too. Now's a good time for it. All right, it's 4 o'clock, so let's give away some more Smart Pots. Okay, we got all the tickets given out? Okay, all right, so the first one we're giving out is a 7-gallon Smart Pot. This is a great size for any individual size herb or any vegetable up to like a really big tomato or squash probably won't fit in here, but other than that, you can fit a lot of things in here. And the way that we use these, we have a lot of these in our backyard, and we will put them inside of a kiddie pool to water. So we'll put it in the kiddie pool, fill it up with a couple inches of water, and it'll drink water from below. And it makes it really simple to keep things watered in the summer. So
Okay.
this one goes to
$3.72.
I don't know. Give it to somebody else.
Okay.
Only one.
Okay. Thank you.
$3.75. Woo.
We have a winner. All right. This one is a 15-gallon Smart Pot. So this one is large enough where you can fit 2 or 3 herbs in there, or a really large tomato or squash, or basically one of anything. Or you could fit a bunch of spinach. You can sprinkle spinach all throughout it. But really, we use these for potatoes and sweet potatoes more than anything, these larger sizes. Because when you go to harvest, it's really easy just to dump it out and then take the potatoes out and then start again with a new batch of them. So we've got 2 of these one 15 and then 120. So we'll give this one out first.
$3.70.
$3.70.
Woo! You got a full garden now.
Okay, so the last one we're giving out is a 20-gallon Smart Pot. Everything I said about the last one except more potatoes is basically what this one means.
$3.78. Woo! Yeah. She's been watching us all weekend.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming out. If you have any other questions or anything else you want to know more about, stick around, come ask us, feel free. But thank you for coming out. We appreciate it.
Thank
and
you.
If you didn't win a Smart Pot, we were selling them over here as well. And we also have them available through our app. If you don't have our app yet, here's a card here where we have information about it. It's completely free. And we really appreciate if you tell your friends about it. Anyone you know that wants to grow food, please tell them about it. Help us spread the word. We would love to make this our full-time jobs. Thank you.